Thanks, Humidity, for my giant hair. Much appreciated. I always manage to film this when the cats are eating, but like this is the best time of day for lighting for me, if you can call this good lighting. So I think it bothers me more than it does the audio and the videos anyway. So we're just gonna make do. I'm just gonna talk real briefly about all the books I read for the reading rush. I do not know how I survived it, like mentally and emotionally, but we got through it. And I finished 7 books in 7 days, and I'm now like 10 books ahead in my reading challenge on Goodreads. Like it's feeling good. I'm feeling good. I feel real great. I feel like I can face fall semester and my forced reading with a little bit of a better spirit now. So I've got my stack of books here that I read, and I'm going to go in order that I finished them. I did John Gardner's Grendel. I read that in one day, the first day. It was a lot harder than I thought it was, because it is really small writing and it's got some serious stuff going on. I've got some tabs and bookmarks, but I don't remember what I did those for. I don't actually annotate books I read for fun. I annotate for school, like obsessively. But this was for fun, so I didn't really do that. I do have this nice new bookmark for this one though, which is the drawing I did. You can't really see, and I've put the date on it. So now if I feel like reading this in the future, I've got a bookmark already ready for it. This was so sad. I felt so bad for Grendel. You could tell kind of the main point of the story was like how the lack of being able to communicate can cause isolation and problems, because Grendel can't communicate with anyone. The only characters who actually are able to talk to him are the dragon and Unferth. And no one believes Unferth because he keeps meeting Grendel in battle and Grendel doesn't kill him because Grendel thinks it's hilarious. And the dragon is too smart for Grendel. So even they aren't on an even playing field with talking, and so it's frustrating for Grendel because he doesn't get it, and it's frustrating to the dragon because he can't be understood. So it really is kind of sad that it's like if there was just communication in this book. You know, Grendel and his mom live in the same place with a bunch of other monsters, and he can't speak to anyone. His mother lost the ability to speak a long time ago, is what he kind of implies. And it just, I don't know. I just feel like if he had something he could talk to, someone he could talk to, that the problems wouldn't have happened. And I felt kind of bad for him. I think I would give this maybe a 3.5 or a 4. I mean, it really was good, and it helped that I just read Beowulf. I would recommend this definitely after a reread of Beowulf, because otherwise it's kind of hard to deal with. But it was really quick, and it was a fun little backstory to a character that is, you know, not talked about much in Beowulf other than being this bloodthirsty monster that comes in and kills people. So that was really good. The next book I finished was the book you had to read. Oh, by the way, yeah, this is the animal on the cover. He's clearly not a human. I mean, he's not a human. Like, he has human characteristics, but this is definitely not a human being. So he counts. The next one was finished in one spot challenge, and I read at work. I read Inherit the Wind, and I finished that on day 2, and it's also really good. Like, I want to put this play on, but I live in like rural eastern North Carolina, so it's probably not realistic. But it's about the trial in Tennessee back in the, I think, 20s is when it is, 20s or 30s. A biology teacher got in trouble for teaching evolution, and it's these two, you know, big, larger-than-life lawyer characters come into this small town, and there's this big to-do. It's like the Bible versus, you know, free will and thought, and it's just got some really good characters in it, and it would just be, oh, it would be so fun to put this on as a play, but you could not do that in this area. This would not go over well in this area, but I would love to do it. I would love to be involved in it. It feels like it would be a fun show, but it was like a lot to deal with. There's some heavy topics. It's like, you know, do you have the right to think? Like, do you have the right to a wrong opinion? And these, like, Christian folks are just like, no, you don't. You have what the Bible says, and that's it. And so there's some really kind of clever things at the end of this. But I would give this probably, again, like a 3.5, 3.7. 3.75. It was good. It was really good. Again, I'd love to put it on. I feel like if the book, this actual script, I would give a 3.5. seeing the play done well could end up being like a 4 or 5, because that's the thing with screenplays and scripts, is that's not the point. Like, reading them is only part of it. Like, the stage directions and stuff in this are things that people are never going to see, are never going to hear in an actual production, but reading them sometimes helps. But there, you should see these in person. You shouldn't just read them. So I'd really like someone locally to do it, but it would be hard to put on. The next one I read was Purple on the Cover, and that was The Color Purple, which again is this very, very pretty book. And I know you can't really tell on my camera because, again, my visual sucks almost as much as my audio, but the pages are yellowed with age. So it's like a purple and gold book, and it mimics the sun on the front. And that's just so pretty. I didn't realize it was a movie cover until a couple of days ago. I finished this one in 2 days because I started it on Tuesday after I finished Grendel. Or no, I started it on Monday after I finished Grendel, and I finished it on Tuesday. Tuesday or Wednesday, I can't remember off the top of my head, but this was amazing. This was really fast at the beginning because Celie, at the very beginning, the character Celie, is not a very educated girl, and so it's written that way. It's written in very choppy sentences and very, like, you know, I'm used to reading that kind of stuff because I'm Southern, so I could hear this all day long. You know, I just walk outside. But it was really quick to read until you got to Celie's letters to her sister and vice versa, and those were a little bit more, you know, backstory and a little bit more wording. And again, as Celie aged and got a little bit more education and world experience, her writing became less, you know, colloquial. But she addresses that in there, that people tried to change the way she talks, and she's like, that's where I'm from, like, that's how I talk. And, you know, I thought that was really nice. And also, we love a lesbian queen. Like, Celie's like, I have kissed some frogs and they have never turned into princes. I love her. Like, she was not fooling around with folks. Go get it. And I really love this. I'll probably reread this not too long after. I think I'll do some annotation after this Southern Lit class I have to take in the fall. And I really want to watch the movie again. I need to look up the musical. For as much as a musical nerd that I am, you think I'd actually, you know, look stuff up for that. But it's one of those things where if I can't watch it, I don't want to spoil things for myself. But this was really good. This is a 4.5. I mean, I'd almost want to give it a 5 if I didn't have another 5-star in here, but this is very close, and I highly recommend it. This is a good classic novel right here. The next one, I have a hard copy of it. It's really nice, little hard copy, but I listened to it on audiobook because I had to do something. No, don't do that on the table. I had to do something at the shop to get this book read, so I did it on audio and 2 times speed, and I got it done in 2 days. And this was really good too. I do like Joe Hill. I like his voice. I like his characters. There is some really dark stuff in here, and there's some good boys. Angus and Bon are good babies, and they don't deserve stuff. That's all I have to say. That's my one qualm with, like, Stephen King and with Joe Hill is, I know it's a thing in horror to have, like, animal stuff, but it's really hard as someone who has 3 cats and a dog to read about things happening to cats and dogs. And again, I know that it's like it brings stuff out in you, so that's why they write it, to kind of get you ready for the shit that has to happen. But it's so bad that I'm like, I don't care if you do it to a human, but the minute something happens to a dog, I'm like, nah, that's fucked up. But it wasn't bad. Like, you know, if you're going to be someone who doesn't like when things happen to animals, you might not want to read this. But it's toward the end, and it's not, you know, gruesome or anything. It's not Stephen King levels of animal torture or animal violence. But if you don't like animal violence, period, you might want to skip this. But I thought it was really neat with the, like, you know, what happens? It's like music based, and like that helps him, and he calls all his girlfriends by, like, where they're from, and so it's, you've got that thing with that trope where, like, a character always has a nickname. When stuff gets serious, you call them by their, like, name. That's in here, so that's really nice. This one would definitely be a 4-star. I'm gonna reread it, I think, in the future, like, actually in person, because I really like the narrator on the audiobook, but sometimes it just helps to be able to kind of read it in your own voice. But yeah, the narration was great. That audiobook, I would highly recommend it. It was, you know, it was a really quick read, and at 2 times speed, you can still understand everything perfectly because this guy has a really slow, gravelly voice. I had to change my book for the one you want to read in 2018 because there was no way I was going to finish a 300-page novel in a day. Like, that was what was left, and I just did not have time to do it. So I went and looked through my shelves and I did not want to read this one yet because I had an idea for something I wanted to do in October, and this factored into it. Oh well. So I went on my Amazon wish list, and it turns out I had added this at the end of last year, and it's Through the Woods by Emily Carroll. It is gorgeous. Like, there's just nothing but pretty stuff in this novel, and it is really, really creepy. Like, her stuff is so creepy, and it's the kind of creepy that, like, ends creepy. So there's really nothing you can do about it. Like, there's no closure because that is the creepiness. There's no closure. Your brain has to make up what it is. And I think I'm going to read her other book, When I Arrived at the Castle, I think is what it is. It's like vampires, and I think it's like got some female vampire stuff, which is cool. I can get with it again if it's this pretty. But she just read this. It was so good. It was a really quick read. I read it in like an hour and a half, 2 hours, because I kept trying to like geek out and show my husband sections of it. I'm like, look how pretty this is. And this is one of those things where, like, I'm going to be a really weird parent and want to read this to my kids because it's so like gorgeous that I'm just going to want to show people this. And I'm like, oh, look, it's like a fairy tale, but it's like really creepy. But it was really good. I don't have my Kindle. I finished A Curse So Dark and Lonely on my Kindle, mostly while running on the treadmill. I need the sequel tomorrow, but I don't get it till next year. Later this year? Next year. It's next year. I'm really sure I looked it up and it was like 2020. Either way, I'm going to suffer the entire time waiting for it because it was so good. I love all the characters in there. It didn't feel like Insta love. It was one of those situations where it easily could have been, but I do feel like the characters had time to get to know each other. And at the end of the day, they don't know if they love each other. And I think that's the really interesting part. Is like, did our love break a curse here? Well, we don't know, so we better not just straight up act like it, but I guess we can sort of find out if it is. I love it. And is it romantic love? It could be platonic love between two guys. It could be romantic love between two guys. We haven't really to rule that one out. But anyway, I'm ready for the sequel. I'm really ready for the sequel. This is going to focus on my baby, Gray, who is a poor innocent bean and needs a hot cup of coffee and a nap. The last book I read was fully on audiobook. And again, I have it in physical copy, The Joy Luck Club. It is so good. This is so good. I want to read it in physical copy again, like I said with Heart-Shaped Box, because I read this one, I think, at 1.5 speed, like 1.5 times speed, just to make sure I could get it done in time. But it's set up into segments. It's told by the daughters of the Joy Luck Club, and it's told by the Joy Luck Club about things that happened to them when they were children. And it's just, I can't relate to a lot of it, because I am not a Chinese American immigrant, and I'm not the child of a Chinese American immigrant. But the relationship between mothers and daughters in this is so complicated, and like the mothers wanting more for their daughters, but also wanting to be acknowledged by them is just so good. So this was easily a 5-star for me. And again, I want to reread this. I'd like to reread it like with my mom, if I could get her to sit down and read a book, because I feel like she would also feel that way, that it was very poignant as a mom and daughter story. But this is definitely a 5-star. I forgot. This is like 4.5, because again, I feel like it should be long enough. It should be a little longer. So that's 4.5. Heart-Shaped Box, I said, was a 4, right? Yeah. So they were all really good. Oh, Curse So Dark and Lonely is probably 4.5. But this was definitely a 5-star. I recommend this highly. It was a really quick read on audiobook, and I think it would go pretty fast in person too. All in all, I'm glad I picked everything I did. They were all really, really good. I don't know what I'm going to read next. I've started Far From the Madding Crowd, and I'm about 60% done with that before this started. And I started The Shining because I'm trying to read The Shining and Dr. Sleep before the new movie comes out, because Ewan McGregor is amazing and I will watch anything he's in. So I want to make sure I've read the book first. I've heard it's good, so we'll see. But that's it. This is going to be a long video. I have another video planned probably for next week, and then I get to pick up my textbooks at the end of this week. So I get to do a textbook haul, soon because school starts back on the 20th. Yay.